Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we're going to do a little bit of disassembly and maintenance on this little guy right here. This is an Emerson, looks like a Mini CQC-15, and I want to thank my viewer, Minnesota Knife Guy, for sending this little guy along. It's a very interesting knife. I got to highlight immediately that the centering is already a little bit off on it, and well, there's pretty much no detent on the knife as it stands, and so I'd like to try and address those things, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to. And so I'm going to do my best here. So, this is a really weird knife in that it has a flathead screw as well as a series of Phillips head screws. I mean, that's okay, I guess. I mean, flathead I feel a little bit better about, but really? Okay. I'm gonna need Team America for this one. My big old American Chinese screwdriver here gives me a little bit of torque and uses a bigger flathead bit. But either way, it's a little weird. Phillips head does have a tendency to strip on out more readily. Is that spinning freely? No. Okay, that's good at least. My big problem with flathead is a bit type is that it has a tendency for your driver to come flying out the side of it. And that's more than a little bit ugly in situations like this. All right, now I'm going to use a smaller Phillips head. Hold on, my bit driver's stuck in there. There we go. Pull that out of there. Leave the Leatherman out. Who knows? Is that? Yeah, that'll do. Alrighty. Unfortunately, my experience with Emerson Customs in the past has not been positive. It's not been extensive, though, either. I've handled one, when I went to the Blade HQ. I've handled a couple here and there at different stores. And, never once have I been impressed by it. I've always hoped, though, very much that it was a question of adjustment. That, these were not bad knives. They were just not properly not properly adjusted. And so, holy crap. Well then. Fine. Okay, there's your stop pin. This is the Emerson taken apart here. So one interesting thing here is that the detent system is different. Let's see here. Yeah, the detent is a different little lever here than the lock bar, which is interesting. It gives you the advantage of being able to have a very firm detent with very light lock bar tension and things like that. However, it can also be a little bit finicky to adjust. A couple of other things that immediately come to notice here is that we are indeed using a plastic, or maybe Teflon, or maybe just PVC, who knows, washer here. We've got full liners. These liners are not skeletonized in any particular way. And, I mean, really, it's pretty straightforwardly put together here. So let's go ahead and wipe things off. You can see there's a little bit of grit up inside this, but oh, well, look at that right here. This is evident. This little discoloration here, to me, looks like heat discoloration. Perhaps it got a little too hot when they ground off the lock face there, and that's not generally good because it tends to make the heat treat a little questionable in that area. But whatever. One other thing is, you note that I believe the Emerson Wave feature is removable. I'm sorry, not the Wave. The thumb disc is removable. That is actually a nice thing because, well, I hate thumb discs deeply. I think that the especially in a knife where you've got the Emerson Wave, which is a fine, I guess, way to open the knife. It'd be nice to be able to pull off this thumb disc that's right in the slicing bath. I'm kind of sneak previewing a couple of bits of ugly here. But my hope is that by the time I'm finished here today, the knife will run a little bit. What's rattling there? Yeah, either way. My hope is that the knife will run a little bit better once I have my hands on it here and clean it out. Not saying that Minnesota Knife Guy has got any sort of issue with maintenance, but generally speaking, I can do a decent enough job. And who knows since, how long it's been since it last got any love. So there we go, and I want to thank Minnesota Knife Guy, of course, for giving me the opportunity to take the knife apart. I'd feel very awkward reviewing this guy in its factory state. I'm going to bend this lock bar out very slightly here, just to see if I can't increase the detent, because it badly needs increased. Oh man, does this detent need a little bit of help. There we go. So that hopefully will help us out a little bit. And you can see here that, interestingly, the detent ball is in the wrong position, but it never comes up off the knife. Again, theoretically, this is a fine idea, and I kind of like the idea of making lock bar tension and detent independent. The question is implementation, as in all things. The devil is in the details, and so far, perhaps it was just poorly in adjustment there. Whoa there. And so who knows? I'm just trying to sort of clear this out a little bit. I noticed a bunch of gunk up inside there. And, you know, that happens, especially, you know, when people use Loctite, as they should. Over time, you kind of get a buildup in there, and, you know, over a long period of time, it can eventually cause some problems. So there we go. I'm not seeing any evidence at all of corrosion of the liner here. Not terribly concerned about that. You know, it's worth saying that if I was really, really wanting to be super thorough here, what I might actually do is remove the other liner here as well as the clip and try and coat the backside of this with frog lube. The thing is, though, with the Phillips head screws that I know can be stripped relatively straightforwardly, the calculus isn't, it's not there. It doesn't make sense to do it on that side just because, well, frankly, I'm seeing no evidence of corrosion on the side I can see, and the risk trade-off isn't there. If it was my knife, I probably would end up doing that, but, you know, here I don't have time to wait for Emerson to, you know, send me a new set of screws or something like that, or to extract the other ones, so I'm just going to go ahead and stick to doing the one side here, and so this side is going to be nicely coated here in frog lube. The other one is fine, and I'll coat the inside of this liner, because why not, right? This is probably also unnecessary. Let's be real here. Occasionally, you pop open a knife and see corrosion. You've seen it in a couple of my disassemblies if you're a long-time viewer. But, you know, for the most part, this is completely just me being retentive. Alrighty, there we go. Let's put this little guy back together. I gotta say, the construction is pretty simple. The only real interesting surprise is this separate detent ball. Which, you know, I like. It isn't a bad idea at all. So there we go. We might need to adjust that, though. I've made some tweaks, and so we might need to make some changes there. But for the moment, I think we're okay. I'm going to use a little bit of oil here. And that was maybe a little much. Let's just use the tip to spread that up onto the pivot here. D-shaped pivot, which I appreciate very much. Makes things a little bit easier. Drop that on there. Drop that on there. It's a Teflon action, so it's not going to be, oh my god, anyways, but you know, whatever. Close enough. So there's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop, that's the thing I missed. This knife had a significant amount of Sharpie on the inside here, which I'm assuming is because there is lock stick concerns here. So I'm going to go ahead and give a nice liberal coating of Sharpie to both sides of this, because, again, I trust Minnesota Knife Guy to know his stuff, and if he felt this knife needed Sharpie, or if the last jackass who he got it off of did, then I might as well help out. So there we go. It's cheap, it's easy, does the trick. Okay, let's try this one more time with feeling. That on there. That on there. We drop in a stop pin because those are useful. Oh, that lockup is a little insane, but it's okay. The lockup on this is like 95%. I don't love that. I'm going to be real here. Okay, drop on a washer, spread my lubrication, similar the other side there. Now let's drop this on and get a sense. Alrighty. So what I'm going to want to do here is, before I get everything too tightened in, I'm going to want to test this detent, basically. Make sure that I've got everything, because I haven't done much adjusting of the independent detent bars, so I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. Okay, now we drop in this main screw, and I am seeing the use of Loctite on this screw at least. That's the other thing I dislike about flathead drivers. Okay. I'm doing my best not to drown the little guy here, but I'm seeing a fair amount, so I will use a fair amount. There we go. I'll just finger tighten that in for the moment here. I'm removing pressure from the lock bar as I do this. There was also a little bit of blade play in there before I started. Okay. That is way too tight. No blade play. Still a little too tight. Since the detent, unfortunately, is just no better, even with the bending. I mean, it's maybe slightly better, but actually, I'm realizing I didn't lube the detent track, so what I'm going to do is use this little needle applicator here and just drop a little tiny bit of oil into there and just let the ball lube the applicator. And I'll do the same thing here. This lockup is kind of frightening. Loosening just a little bit more here. No play. Well, the detent is a little bit better, but that may just mean that it's a little bit more tightened down, because it still wanted to pop open. It wasn't the detent. There we go. That's actually a little bit better. It's hard to say whether that is the detent itself. Just remove the bit of oil on there. Whether that's the detent itself that's better, or whether it's just the lock bar, the pivot tension's a little higher. Either one can have the effect of preventing the blade from flying open. Well, in that case, I'm thinking it was indeed the pivot tension. Even by increasing nominally the strength of the detent bar there is zero detent on this. I'm wondering whether the detent hole in the lock bar line up at all. But that's okay. Well, no, it's not at all okay, but, you know, sometimes that's life with a given knife. Life with a knife. Okay. Well, look, I mean, I'm gonna reapply Sharpie here because it's back to being pretty sticky, and you can see it's worn that partially off. Part of that is oil, but it's a little difficult when the lock bar lockup is that deep to fight off the forces of lock stick. So I'll probably be reapplying that a couple of times. Damn it! Now there's a little blade play. I gotta say, this is Not impressing me so much. Centering looks maybe a little bit better. It's hard to tell with the chisel grind. So this blade originally came chisel ground, but then it looks like somebody took a little bit of metal off the back side of it to turn it into a V grind. I don't know that that's a beautiful thing. I don't honestly think it is. But, you know, it's there. But it makes the centering a little bit difficult to tell. But, I mean, looking down the blade, it's okay. There we go. There is no play now. There's still no detent. Ugh. I don't really feel comfortable bending that detent bar any further, especially because I don't believe it's going to do anything. I think that's just the nature of the beast here today. Well, okay, that's the Emerson Mini CQC-15 here. I mean, it's an interesting knife, but oh boy, is it not a... The construction on this is... Well, it's certainly fascinating. And yeah. So, there we go. Hopefully, carrying this will make it make a little bit more sense to me. And we will indeed see. But at the very least, it's now put back together. Thank you very much, Minnesota Knife Guy. I did my best for you here. And I hope that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.